Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the absolute high-stakes world of Norwegian traffic signs. Now, Norway has some of the most breathtaking driving routes on the planet, but beneath all that stunning scenery lies a heavily regulated system. So let's decode these signs together to make sure we keep our driver's licenses and our vacation budgets completely intact.
So let's just get right to it. How fast can you actually lose your driver's license in Norway? Well, instantly. Seriously. Missing just one single sign doesn't mean a little slap on the wrist over there. We're talking massive fines or literally having your license seized on the spot by the authorities. Ignorance of the law is never an excuse, and in Norway, the road signs demand your absolute, unwavering attention. Okay, Section 1. The Universal Red Circle. Absolute authority. All right, the absolute most crucial thing to remember here is that these red-bordered circles dictate exactly what you cannot do. When you spot that red circular border, boom, that is the universal signal for a prohibition in the Norwegian traffic system. Whatever symbol or text is inside that circle is strictly forbidden the second you drive past it. And because they're laying down the law on forbidden actions, they always override your general traffic rules. Oh, and keep an eye on the background color. They're almost exclusively white, but if you see a yellow background, that means the restriction is just temporary, like, for road work or some pretty treacherous winter conditions. Moving on to Section 2, City Traps. Access and maneuvers. Now, this is a real trap for drivers navigating Norwegian towns. On one hand, you've got closed to all vehicles. That's a red circle with a totally empty white or yellow center. That means exactly what it sounds like. The road is closed to all vehicle traffic, in both directions, pedestrians only. But then, on the other hand, you have the No Motor Vehicles sign, which has a silhouette of a car and a motorcycle inside it. And while that obviously bans motorized vehicles, it actually gives cyclists a total free pass. They use this a lot to keep residential neighborhoods quiet and free of pollution. Mix these two up, and you might find yourself illegally off-roading down a pedestrian-only forest path, which is definitely not where you want to be. When you're in the city, you've got to obey directional bans immediately. See a no-entry sign? The solid red circle with the horizontal white bar across it? That is critical. It means you are staring down the wrong end of a one-way street, and going in carries a massive head-on collision risk. Then you have turn prohibitions. If a sign says no left turn, you follow it. Even if your GPS is aggressively screaming at you to turn left, you listen to the sign. And finally, no U-turns. They require a large radius and they block lanes, making them inherently risky. But remember, even if there isn't a sign, U-turns are strictly and naturally banned in dangerous spots like tunnels and motorways by general regulation anyway. Okay, this next one is wild. Norway's legal definition of parking is incredibly strict, and you absolutely need to know this to avoid getting slapped with a sudden fine. Parking there isn't just about turning your engine off. No, it's defined as keeping the vehicle stationary for more than 5 minutes. So pull over, sit in your car with the engine running for exactly 6 minutes. Congratulations, you are legally parked. And get this, if you stop and step away from the vehicle to run a quick errand, even if you were gone for just 1 single minute, you are also legally parked. So, how does that strict definition actually play out on the street? Well, the no parking sign has a blue background with just a single diagonal red stripe. In that zone, you're actually allowed to stop briefly to let passengers in or out or load and unload some bags, just as long as the activity is continuous. But compare that to the no stopping sign. That one features a big red X over the blue background. This is the strictest restriction there is. If you pull over just to quickly check your math or take a phone call in a no-stopping zone, you are breaking the law. Absolutely zero stopping is tolerated here unless it's a sheer emergency or you're stuck in traffic like at a red light.
All right, Section 3, Open Road Hazards, Speed and Overtaking. Under the Norwegian legal framework, speed limit signs are technically prohibitory signs. They literally prohibit you from driving faster than the number displayed. But what happens if there just isn't a sign? Well, 80 kilometers per hour is your magic number. See, in Norway, crossing an intersection usually cancels whatever the previous speed limit was. So if you turn onto a brand new rural road and you don't see a new speed sign posted, that default rural limit of 80 kilometers per hour instantly kicks in. But listen, you need to be extremely careful when you're transitioning into residential areas. Like we just talked about, a standard circular speed limit sign is canceled by the next intersection. But a speed limit zone, which is this rectangular sign containing the speed limit circle and the word zone, operates completely differently. This sign stubbornly applies to an entire neighborhood or area. Intersections do not cancel it.
You have to maintain that exact speed limit until you explicitly pass an end of zone sign. Honestly, so many drivers that caught speeding here because they just assume passing across street reset the limit. Don't fall for it. Now, overtaking on those narrow 2-lane Norwegian roads, it's incredibly risky. The general overtaking ban sign shows a red car next to a black car. That means vehicles with more than 2 wheels absolutely cannot pass other vehicles with more than 2 wheels. But interestingly, there's an exception. You actually are permitted to safely pass a 2-wheeled motorcycle. Then you've got the heavy vehicles ban. If you see a red truck next to a black car, that ban is only targeting slow-moving heavy vehicles, usually on inclines or really narrow stretches. If you're just driving a standard passenger car, you can still legally pass, but extreme caution is required. The road conditions there are clearly dangerous for a reason. Moving to Section 4, the heavy stuff, size and weight limits. Norway is super famous for its tunnels and bridges, but a lot of them were built decades ago. So, right before narrow bridges and underpasses, you'll see signs indicating the maximum allowable height or width. If your vehicle, and yes, that absolutely includes your roof box or those bicycles you mounted on top, exceeds those dimensions, you have to turn around and find an alternative route. Do not ignore these signs. The consequences are brutal. If you actually strike a tunnel ceiling or bridge, you won't just ruin your vacation, authorities will revoke your driver's license on the spot. Also, if you're driving something big like a heavy motorhome, you really need to know about tidelingsning, which is the spring thaw. This is a highly vulnerable time for Norwegian infrastructure, and we have to pay close attention to it. When the ice melts, the road surfaces soften significantly. So to protect the roads from just crumbling completely, authorities install temporary weight limit signs with yellow backgrounds. Heavy vehicle drivers literally have to calculate their total weight, their axle load, and their bogie load against these temporary signs before they can proceed. And finally, Section 5, the sweet release, cancellations and subpanels. After miles and miles of strict speed limits and overtaking bans, this sign is a beautiful sight. It's a gray circle with 5 diagonal black lines and no internal symbol. This is the sweet release. It signifies the end of all local prohibitions. The second you pass this sign, every single previous prohibitory sign is officially canceled. From this point forward, you're returned to the default traffic rules, which means you can usually bump your speed back up to that default 80 kilometers per hour, provided it's safe to do so. But hey, before you celebrate, you have to master the subpanels. In Norway, they call these underschilt, and they're found right beneath the main signs. Basically, this is the fine print. First, always check for exceptions. A sign might ban heavy vehicles, but the subpanel could say it doesn't apply to buses. Next, verify the time frames. A no parking sign might actually only apply on weekdays during work hours. And lastly, watch the arrows. An arrow pointing down means the prohibition ends right at that sign, but an arrow pointing up means it begins there. Precise observation of these subpanels is literally the difference between a safe driver and one who gets a citation in the mail. So now that you know the incredibly high stakes, those subtle little traps of city parking, and the absolute critical importance of subpanels, we're left with one final question. The next time you're driving along and completely captivated by a breathtaking Norwegian fjord out your window, are you actually going to be observant enough to catch that yellow temporary restriction sign zooming by? Drive safe, stay alert, and we'll see you in the next explainer.